Greetings as we approach the month of darkness and chaos. I felt like getting back into an old favorite. Welcome to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. For you youngsters who might not have been around, there was a show called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Came out in the, I believe, late 90s, early 2000s. Not entirely sure. But it was originally a movie, and then it was a TV show. But it starred Sarah Michelle Gellar, and it came out originally. The movie came out in 1992. I believe the actual show, the show itself premiered in 1997 and ran to 2003. Well regarded and very much liked by the younger generation at the time. The show starred Sarah Michelle Gellar, a very young Sarah Michelle Gellar, and a number of up and coming young stars that attracted a particularly it picked up a particularly popular following and was well liked and well respected, and also would go on to get two video games, which were sort of promoted as a series of lost episodes between certain seasons. I believe this is between season 2 and 3. Or, yeah, I think it's between season 2 and 3. Oh, that's not creepy as all. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, just loving the creepy vibes of this place. So, pointy, wooden. But yeah, this was a game that caught a lot of people off guard. Like, I'd be the first to tell you, I was not exactly a huge Buffy fan, but I did find the. I did. To be fair, like, I liked the movie, I thought it was funny in a weird, campy sort of way. But the show didn't catch me initially until later on, and then as I got a little older, I started to definitely appreciate it more. Bonus steak. Excellent. Okay. But yeah, like the whole deal with the Slayer is that there's a girl somewhere in the world who will always have the power of the Slayer. And part of that power is that it gives her enhanced strength, speed, inherent knowledge and senses of when vampires are around. Whoa, dust to dust. But there's a hilarious scene in the early part of the show where come on up and get a fight, buddy. Interesting knows that the game is old school, so you can go into the menu options pretty much anytime you want. But no, Buffy was a bit of a cultural touchstone. It's really kind of what set Sarah Michelle Gellar on the map in a weird sense. Come on, there it goes. And she'd go on to have a fairly interesting career of her own. Yeah. Now, to be fair, like, I think his name was Anthony Stewart Head. And he was actually really cool. Like, I honestly thought he was pretty neat overall. As a character, he was well acted, and he's an efficient method actor, so he does the job. Nicely done. But yeah, the game is a third person action adventure beat 'em up with notably very for its time it had strong graphics, solid visuals, and top-notch voice acting for its era. Though admittedly, this is one of the first times when it's one of those things where a lot of people would be quite shocked at just how good this is. The game mixes exploration, combat, martial arts. I do feel like this game was kind of a shock for some of us who weren't expecting a licensed game to be any good. Licensed games at the time in particular had a, shall we say, tainted reputation. Though there were exceptions emerging. The Lord of the Rings games were definitely a shockingly good set of games. There was a lot of really good. I love the banter between them. And he really does, in a weird way, become like her father figure later on in the show. Like, she doesn't have a father figure, so he kind of becomes it for her. But I do love the fact that, like, he, over time, kind of becomes her father figure. And down you go. But I very much love the ever living hell out of this game, and I've actually beaten it, but it's been a long time. I'd say that's. Oh yes, the Revenant, the undead, and I mean literal undead in this case. Best thing about them is that they're highly vulnerable to brute force because, unlike a proper vampire, they're not actually properly immortal. They're just reanimated bones. So if you happen to give the bones a good bashing, they go down. But yeah, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a series that, in a lot of ways, kind of had its kind of had a charm that was hard to define until you actually saw it, and the game was the same way. Okay, Arcane Portal. Never a good sign. But I do love the fact that this was the first era where you really started to see, like, yeah, yep, because you were dead at this point. Yeah, dream sequence, right? So yeah, the the whole game takes place as sort of a missing episode between seasons 2, 3, and so forth. The other side of the story is she's still a high schooler. Here we go. So yeah. So the game is essentially a, I guess you could say it's a self-contained story, but it plays into the overall the overall story of the series. Which, to be fair, like, hey, that's a good way to integrate them into. Well, that's probably bad. But this is one of those games that it's very simple in its setup, but it's exceptionally well executed. Graphically strong, very good music and ambiance. Voice work is pretty damn good. Whoops. Now here's where the game really starts to tick off because now you can start getting other weapons as you go. The stake is not your only option now. And basically anything that is pointy, wooden, or similar, yeah, anything like this will do just fine. Hey, come here. Never mind. Of the implication, like it's trying to kill you. One thing I really do wish is that you got both health and Slayer power every time you killed an enemy. Every so often you get a health recharge, which is these bright pink energy balls. Whereas if you get the more purplish energy balls, they refill your Slayer strength, which is what gives you your superhuman power. Very handy, but when you're low on health, you don't want that. Oh, cool. An actual baseball bat. Sit down. I highly recommend, especially the first 3 or 4 seasons are really good, and then it gets I'd say the first season's really good, and then it starts getting weird the longer it goes. Many a show has had that problem. Subtle. Oh hey. Yeah. She is the quote unquote nerdy friend. Although later on she gets freaking magic. Like she gets actual like superpower magic. Another note is that one of the vulnerabilities of vampires in this universe is fire. How about you go kill something else? But yeah, I have in the past beaten the entire game. It is not in particular easy, though, depending upon the difficulty listing, it isn't that particularly hard depending upon the difficulty used. But even at the lowest level, you still are going to have some challenging fights, especially later on. I highly recommend the game if you're into like old school like beat 'em up action adventure stuff. But I definitely feel like the game could have. Well, I guess we have new company. Here, do me a favor. It's always a good idea to make sure that you go around and make sure to find any type of potion, elixir, or special item you can. Any weapon, improvised or not. Just in general, the more you search around, the more you're gonna likely survive, especially at the higher difficulties. Because at the higher difficulties, like a one-on-one with a vampire is usually gonna hurt. Which is hilarious because in like the second game, all the different characters actually have. Yeah, I doubt it. Come on. But my personal love for this game notwithstanding, it's actually an exceptionally solid beat 'em up with a really good combat engine and a fantastic premise. I do think that it being tied to Buffy actually gives it a lot more humor and gives it a sense of like real energy to it. Whereas like the traditional vampire story is all brooding and darkness and all this other junk, and he's like, yeah, that's great. I just want to bust vampire heads. You're right. Showtime. You need to leave. Oh, hello, demon doggy. And this is sort of the game's first semi-boss fight. Though the demon dogs are not that difficult to fight. They're just a... You just gotta stun lock them and then beat the ever-living crap out of them and they're done. Alright, gonna pause it here real quick, then we'll continue in just a moment. But yeah, I forget how much I love this game. Even if it's stuck in the 4:3 aspect ratio, it's still a great game. But I'll be back in a bit, and we'll continue and see if we can get to the end of this level at the very least. See you then.